You know, it's funny, as a child, I don't think I had a really very clear idea of what I wanted to do, you know. The only things I did kind of in science, I did have like this Gilbert chemistry set, and I, you know, would mix chemicals together, and I had a microscope set once too, you know, where you'd watch shrimp eggs hatch and things like that, and an erector set, but I really had not a very clear idea of what I wanted to do, and certainly I have no idea that I'd be doing, you know, being a professor and, you know, kind of an entrepreneur like I am today. Yeah, I think some of the things that I've watched, I think it's really important. I mean, there's a few things that I think are good to do. One, I think it's good to dream. I think it's good to have really big dreams. I think it's important to realize that they don't come easily. I think you have to work really hard to get there. And I think you have to be very, very determined that there's going to be lots of obstacles in your way. So I think you have to, you know, make sure that those obstacles don't get the better of you. And, you know, sometimes in life, there's an awful lot of obstacles, and, you know, the people that keep plowing through them are you know, usually the people that do very well, because there's always going to be a lot of obstacles, more than you think. Well, I always think that the single thing that I'm proudest of is how well my students have done. I guess I have over 200 students now that are professors at universities around the world, probably another couple hundred who are, you know, executives at companies or, you know, started companies. And, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people who've done pretty well scientifically, but not that many that have had, I mean, I think when I look at the success of our students, it's been pretty remarkable. I mean, people who've been trained in the lab, I mean, they've, you know, they're deans of colleges, CEOs of big companies, and so that, I mean, that's kind of more of an area under the curve kind of thing, but it's something that I'm probably the single thing I'm proudest of. There probably goes back to a couple things, probably our early discovery of how one could manipulate polymer structures to deliver macromolecules. That'd probably be, you know, that would probably be one of the biggest ones. And then we also created some new, like, sort of paradigms and strategies for creating new tissues and organs. And, you know. Yeah, I think what makes you who you are, so I think a couple things. One, you know, a certain type of upbringing from my dad and mom, and but then I think I was very lucky. When I was a postdoc, I worked for a man named Judah Folkman. He was a very visionary guy, and he was also somebody, I think, that, you know, believed that anything was possible. And I think working for him was just a great experience. And so I think having him as a role model was probably, if I were to pick something, that would probably have an enormous influence on me. You know, near the bottom of the world, and it's a shame. I think it's something that's just incredibly important, but it's you know, it's hard to think of something more important than education for kids, and I think that you know, you really would like to see the government do more, I think, and also the media do more. I think the media glorifies athletes and singers and actors and actresses, and they do very little to, you know, glorify teachers and scientists and things like that. And so I think that, which is not necessarily true in a lot of other countries. Well, I think there's a number of burgeoning fields. So I sort of answer this in a couple of parts. I think there's a number of burgeoning fields. I think there's, you know, and those are the ones I believe in. So I think nanotechnology is an exciting area. I think regenerative medicine is an exciting technology. But I also think it's a mistake to sort of think that we know in advance what the burgeoning fields will be. I think that what happens is, and what you want to foster is the fact that some of the things of the future will be things that are not even on our radar screen today. And we ought to have the flexibility and the vision to accept those things, and when they come out, make sure that there are resources for them as well. I mean, I think that's probably the most important thing we can do. The fields that are, so to speak, hot right now, I mean, they'll probably do fine no matter what. Mm-hmm. But, you know, a lot of times when I've watched in my career, when I've come up with ideas that were, you know, say unusual, then I would have a hard time getting funding for them, whereas later on, after we and others did lots of things to make them more feasible, there would be tons of funding. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important to keep an open mind about where the future can go, and not predetermine things too much. Sure, I think a couple of things. Well, first, like I was saying before, I wouldn't want to you shouldn't give up, and you shouldn't give up easily. But I also think if you're failing, you want to try to understand why you're failing. What is it? What is it that you're not doing right? And sometimes you can get advice, and I think it's very important to have mentors who can help you get advice. I mean, if you're not getting grants, maybe you get some colleagues to review them, and they'll tell you, well, you should have said this or that. Maybe there's study sections who actually review them, give you that advice. Maybe you have to get it other ways, but I think it's very, very important to not only not give up, but I always felt when I didn't get something like a paper turned down or a grant turned down, I always would say to myself, it's my fault. It wasn't my fault because, the idea might have been good, but if I didn't communicate it right, then that's my fault, and I need to learn how to communicate it better. And so I think that, so I would keep on trying to learn from my mistakes and my failures too. So.